happening, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Abundant Relationships. If it's your first time, spill my coffee. If it's your first time, please consider subscribing. Because on this channel, we talk about dating, relationships, and ways you can be the best version of yourself so that you don't spill your coffee on yourself like I've just done. This is crazy. Now we can get started. So, a couple days ago, I was on Facebook and there's a group that I happen to belong to, and somebody asked a question that I thought was really, really brilliant. And her question was, can men and women be just friends? Or does it only work if neither of them is interested in the other sexually? Now, after I read that post, the first thing that came in my mind was another question, which is, can a man or a woman be just friends with someone who happens to possess features that they consider to be sexually appealing? Now, a quick answer to that is absolutely yes. You can be friends with someone who is really attractive, somebody who arouses you sexually. But, and this is the big but here, okay, forget about that. You choosing to be platonic, to be just friends with this person, doesn't magically take away those sexual desires that you have towards this person. I'm going to get a little bit scientific here, but please stick around. I'm going to make it very easy to understand. Sadly, when it comes to sexual desires, we as human beings don't have as much control as we think we do. We as human beings have this part of our brain which is considered to be the reptilian brain, or sometimes it's called the lizard brain, whatever it is. And this part is responsible for things like fear, things like anger. And on top of that, it is also responsible for reproduction. And simply put, it is the desires that we have towards someone who happens to have those sexual attributes that we find attractive. Is it a big ass? Is it a nice rack of titties? Is it a pretty face? Are those the things that you consider to be desirable in someone? And when you see those things, your sexual desire gets aroused. Now, the desire is not the follow-through with the action of sexual intercourse, but just that feeling of wanting to get intimate with someone. The lizard brain happens to react really quick. You see somebody who has got those sexual attributes that arouse you, the first thing that happens without your control is you start wondering how having a sexual orgasmic experience with this person is going to feel. If you're the person that loves to be dominated, that thought just comes up in your head as far as having that person dominate you sexually, or if it's vice versa. And this is something we have very little control over. We also have another part of our brain which is considered the thinking brain. Now, this thinking brain is also called the prefrontal cortex. It's responsible for things that look at long-term consequences, planning and whatnot. So when you see a woman whom is sexually attractive to you, the lizard brain goes like, hey man, try and see if you can get it. The prefrontal cortex kicks in and says, wait, hold up a minute. I know Mr. Lizard right there is really excited right now, but let's talk about this, buddy. You have sex with that woman. What's going to happen next? It's going to last 5 minutes. And after that, you go home. She's going to want to keep doing it again, maybe, if you're that good. Or your wife ends up finding out that you had sexual intercourse with that person. She feels betrayed by your actions. She takes the kids away. You lose the house. And then you might still have to pay alimony to her. So Mr. Lizard right there is not really somebody you should be listening to. Now, that's the prefrontal cortex that kicks in and looks at the bigger picture. This thinking brain saves us from a lot of mistakes. The biggest disadvantage that the thinking brain has over the lizard brain is that the lizard brain is really, really quick. Compare this, you might say it's like having Usain Bolt race Taurus. That's a very unfair competition right there. Now, most people who are friends who have those sexual attributes they find attractive and they follow that impulse of engaging in those sexual intercourse with very little restraints, you find that these people listen to that quick impulse of Mr. Lizard, of the lizard brain, the reptilian brain, that we all have. There's nothing wrong with having those sexual intimate desires to just dominate or be dominated by somebody you find sexually attractive. The only problem that comes in that scenario is that most of the time, these short-term arousals that we tend to cater to by listening to the lizard brain tend to have long-term consequences that are way, way worse than the satisfaction that we get from attending to them. Most people don't really have that much control over their sexual desires as they would like to say they do. They either completely suppress them or they just let them go wild. If you happen to have a friend who is super attractive, you just wanna get busy with her, and for some reason you know that the long-term consequences are not worth it, but that pull from the lizard brain is too strong. One thing I would advise you to do is try to spend as little time close to that person as possible. Let's say you're in a relationship and you also happen to have a really attractive friend whom you tend to spend a lot of time around. That proximity aspect of things is going to make it even worse because you keep seeing this person, you keep getting these natural sexual impulses that come in from being attracted to this person. You're putting yourself at a disadvantage in that scenario. So limiting that exposure you have to that person will save you as far as short term. If you want a long-term solution to this, meditate. Learn to understand that these sexual urges are normal. This happens on a regular basis. As a human being, it's part of life. And when you meditate, things like awareness meditation, it allows you to see things for what they really are. It allows you to see that pull and acknowledge it and say, hey, this is normal. It also happens to be temporary. So I'm going to sit still. I'm going to acknowledge this feeling, and I will let it dissipate and let it pass if you're not in a position to engage that particular person in a sexual manner and that becoming appropriate for you moving forward. So as you've just heard, those impulses are completely normal. That's part of you being human. However, trying to see things, trying to evaluate situations from a long-term perspective is going to do you so much good, and you can work on this muscle, because I believe it's a muscle. You can work on improving that aspect of your prefrontal cortex, your thinking brain, by meditating, sitting still, and acknowledging things for what they really are. That's the long-term solution. If you find it being really, really hard to restrain yourself, to not want to follow those sexual urges that you have towards a friend, try to limit your physical exposure to that particular person. That might be very helpful for you. So thank you very much for watching, guys. If you like the videos, if you like the content, if you found that you learned something from it, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. Share the videos with anyone that you think would benefit from them. And also leave me a comment. What do you think? Do you think it's okay to be friends with somebody who has that much pull sexually on you? Or do you think that friendship is a no-no at that point? And if there's any other topics you guys want me to cover in the coming videos, put them in the comment section below. And until next video, I'll catch you guys in another one.